Homemade banana bread, get over there.
It's good.
Still on that
Thank
trail?
you.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So mention those little
over
things
there.
like that.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, maybe you might find a few things out that
Yeah,
we
I know.
Beth, I'm ready whenever you are.
We never got paid.
All right, 1 second.
My wife's,
They wanna buy their good for, you know, man, it's on that.
I would venture that most people don't.
Got something in my eye.
my
They
wife still
will
said,
just buy it.
Besides my
my
finger.
wife still said, you know, sometime we need to go on 30 minutes to
Something.
the sack
I
to
know,
show you
crazy.
past birds and this and that for all the manufactured spinning for trips and stuff. I'm
You
like,
wanna use my chair for your bag?
No, I just got a breadcrumb stuck in my zero.
Is it St. Patrick's Day or
Yes, no, I get the big
what does pinching me have to do with St. Patrick's?
All right,
If you're not wearing green, you get pinched on St.
Oh.
Patrick's Day.
we're ready. We'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance.
gotta have a little O'Keefe in your blood to know that one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There was a green on Thursday.
Thank you,
joke
everyone.
When I was in high school.
Now we're gonna open the meeting for public comments.
Better shut up.
Anyone have public comments? Okay, we'll move on to the board meeting agenda. Looking for a motion.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Bredesen. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda, do you wanna run through it, Andrew?
Yep. On today's consent agenda, we have approval of the December 8th board meeting minutes, approval of the social services, county and hospital accounts payable, approval of the 2023 law enforcement contract with Grove City, approval of the hire full-time social worker Jessica Meyer at C41 Step 1, $27.29 per hour, effective on January 4th, 2023. Approval of the promotion of Kobe Holtz to full-time engineering tech heavy equipment operator, B23 Step 1, $22.21 an hour, effective on December 27th. Resolution 2237 approving updated delegated contract process agreement with MnDOT. Approval of the renewal of 32 on-sale license for Darwin Rod and Gun Club. Approval of appointment to the Extension Committee. Approval of appointments to the Board of Adjustments and Planning Commission. Approval of quotes for geotechnical services related to the facility remodel project. And that is the consent agenda.
Questions?
Move to approve the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen, discussion, questions?
On the remodeling?
Yeah.
Did we have any estimates before that on this specific one?
Yes, $25,000 is what was in the budget.
So it was under
It is under.
quite a bit. That's good.
Anything else? All in favor of approving are we on a resolution? Go ahead, Corey, I was just checking, see if you catch that.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
Yes. All right, Tiffany Collins, Central Community Transit Director. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Tiffany Collins. I'm the Transit Director with the Central Community Transit. I'm here just to provide a brief update on our activities for the transit. And then we have a contract in front of you in the services your agenda today. So basically, the Central Community Transit is continuing to provide transit using buses. We have 33 buses that service the three counties, Meeker, Candy Ohio, and Renville counties. And we also run the volunteer driver program, which primarily helps individuals get to and from their medical appointments that are generally outside of the service area, Twin Cities, St. Cloud, Rochester, Duluth. It's a lot of travel that goes outside of those things there. So we have experienced, some definite staffing shortages that we are not unique to. I'm well aware, but it has been very challenging to continue to provide the service that we have worked really hard to provide, be able to keep the number of hours that we'd like to provide to the public, and the times that are available. I know we are very fortunate in Meeker County right now that we are able to continue our weekend and evening service, so I think we need to applaud our staff for doing that, being able to provide the Saturday, Sunday, and then we are operating through 7 o'clock in the evening in the city of Litchfield. So we have been fortunate to keep our staffing manageable here, but we are very short during the day as well. So we continue to pound the pavement to try to keep good drivers on the road for that. So we are definitely also feeling the effects of not receiving vehicles in a timely manner. We have orders placed that have been placed in 2020 and 2021. We have not received those vehicles yet, so we have been challenged with keeping those buses on the road. We've had to replace transmissions, and we've got an engine that we're just gonna have to replace and keep going for that, so that's coming up as well. So, but overall, I think we need to be very proud of our services here, especially in Meeker County, that we are continuing to do that as best we can. Also, with the volunteer driver program, we're going to be going through several updates and changes to that. We have several contracts that we accommodate for the volunteer driver program. There's a lot of transportation that needs to happen, whether it's court ordered or through medical assistance that is required and needed to happen throughout the counties. And so there's a lot of volunteers. I'm proud to say that we still have 40 volunteers in our 3-county area, which is about half what it was about 6 years ago. But I just overheard a comparison yesterday from UCAP, the 9 counties down in western Minnesota. They have 35 volunteers for those 9 counties, and we have 40 for our 3. So I was feeling that we still have that many that are willing to do that. But they use their personal vehicles, and they are reimbursed their mileage, their meals, and parking if that is needed while they're away from their area. But they do get paid their mileage between their home when they pick up the individual and then when they take them to where they're going and back home again. So there's a lot of changes with the Prime West contract this year that we're looking at. So we're looking ahead and trying to get ready for that. So so we have a contract in front of you today to update our contract with Meeker County, and we've basically had the same contract that we present to Candy High, Meeker, and Renville County. I have been to Candy High County later this morning. And basically, this contract has not been updated since 2016. We put this purchase of service agreement in place when we merged with the other 2 counties, and we just have not updated that. We were waiting, kind of just letting it slide for the first couple of years because the merger kind of caused a lot of different changes, and we wanted to see how that operated, and then the pandemic hit, so we just waited for that. So the main thing that obviously is different and changed and updated, and I'm asking for some additional administrative cost for to cover in this contract, is we had been adding a 22-cent per mile administrative rate since 2016, but as you are well aware, we have had to update our wages, insurance, and we've also implemented some technology that our drivers use. Every driver has a tablet now that we can keep track of their mileage and their expenses, and it comes in a timely manner that way rather than paper pencil that we used to use. So I am presenting a contract today that goes from 22 cents per mile to 30 cents per mile in the contract. So otherwise, the contract is similar to years past. So I'm open to any questions that I can try to answer.
Questions for Tiffany?
Do we know how much total dollars that will impact the 22 to 30?
Off the top of my head, I don't. Paul may when he comes in and presents on the contract.
Okay,
That might be also helpful, and the other thing is I'm not quite sure about the numbers moving into the future because the Prime West contract might be a little different than what it used to look like. So it certainly gets.
okay.
I'm glad you asked the question, cause I thought I might have missed it.
Well,
So does that affect the budget for next year? Were we aware of this when you budgeted or no?
That would be a question for Paul, but I believe yes.
So this is in the social service in his budget? Okay. So do we want a motion now on the contract or no?
I
We're
think
gonna
we
do
take
them
it
all
with the rest of the
together when
contracts.
Paul comes. Any questions for Tiffany? Anyone? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Chose, Woodland Centers Director. Morning. How was your drive?
Chilly. I had
Yes.
to unbury a car before. We have one that sits outside our admin car and I had to unbury it, so.
Oh, goodness.
Made it.
One point.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be here. I like to come every year to each of our counties that we serve and just give an update on where we've been, where we're headed. Kind of going back a whole year almost since we'll be talking about 21 data, which feels weird because we're almost in 2023. But just to look at some of our data from that previous year, in 2021 we served 4,646 clients. Of those clients, 87% of them were from our 7-county area. But we do serve people from all over the state. In 2021, we served people from 59 of our total counties, and then we actually serve some people out of state as well. And typically they're coming into our crisis unit or might be in our area during that time. So we do serve people from all over the place, but typically most of them are from our 7-county area. 2021, we serve people between the ages of 3 to 88. So really we serve womb to tomb. I mean, we've served kids as young as 1.5. We've served people in their 90s, so it really is the full age range that we serve. Last year, our budget was about a $15 million budget. 2022, we are working off of about a $20 million budget, so it's a $5 million increase just in 1 year. And a lot of that is because of our CCBHC status, moving to this new mechanism of providing care and how we bill for services. So it's been a pretty significant increase. In 2021, our income, majority of it comes from program service revenue. So we provide a service, we bill for it. That's about 65% of our overall revenue that we obtain. 18% of that was county contracts in 2021 and 12% are grants. We have a number of grants that we have, like our mobile crisis, schooling, mental health, and then a number of other handful of grants that we receive throughout the year. For 2022 and 2023, we're projecting that the purchase of service contracts we receive from our counties is going to drop to about 14% of our overall revenue. Excuse me, just because of how much more revenue we're getting from fee for service and how much more service we're doing across our 7 counties. On here, I did include some information here on client services delivered by modality, because I think it's important for you all to kind of see how things have shifted prior to COVID in 2019, and then how we've been kind of moving with services. So obviously in 2019, a lot of services, almost 100% were face-to-face. That's just how we delivered services. And then the world fell out from under us in 2020, and you can see the makeup there. So 40% were face-to-face still, even throughout COVID. And then phone was 14% and telemed was 46%. And this is across our entire agency of all the services we deliver. In 2021, we began to get more back to the face-to-face services. And then the first 6 months of 2022, again, even more face-to-face. But there's always going to be a spot for telehealth. I think there's certain people it works better for. We have folks that go on their lunch break from work and can quickly pop on a Zoom call in their car, in the parking lot, wherever, and they can do their appointment and not have to take a lot of time off. So it's really convenient for folks. On snow days like we've been having in 2019 and prior, we would shut down for the most part. We wouldn't be able to see people. Well, now we can quickly pivot and we can still allow people to have their services and do it over Zoom. So there is a really nice place for that, and we will likely see that into the future. The next area I want you to pay attention to is this comprehensive evaluation same-day access data. So we started same-day access. Really what that means is if you call and you're brand new to services, you need to have what we call a diagnostic assessment or a comprehensive eval. For us, it's kind of the same thing, different lingo depending on where you're at. And so in December of 2020, we started same-day access. So if you call today, we'll get you in today. There were some glitches, some bugs, but we were working through all of those pieces. And so today, as of now, we have 5 FTE, and their full-time job is to do comprehensive evals every day, all day. So on any given day, we're doing between 13 to 20 comp evals. So we're getting new people in our door or updating an eval if somebody needs that. So I wanted to present this data to you to show you how many evals we're doing in a given year. But the big number that we were paying attention to is that no-show cancel rate. Prior to 2020, when we started this process, we would have a 27 to 28% no-show rate. And a lot of that was because you would call today, and so Beth calls us and says, hey, I need to get in for services. And we say, okay, well, we have an appointment 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks out. Perfect, I'll take it. So we schedule you 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks out. Well, what happens in those 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks is maybe you don't need the appointment anymore. Maybe you go seek services somewhere else. Maybe whatever prompted you to call has changed. Maybe you've changed your mind. So, I don't want to deal with this anymore, right? So all of these things can happen in those 6 weeks. So if we could get that person that says, I want to be seen, great, come on in today. We'll get you seen today. We're much more likely to help meet their needs. We're much more likely to get them in for services because there's usually a very small window when people are willing to make that call. And we can see that with the no-show rate. We still have an 11% no-show rate even when we schedule same day. So if people still, they might call at 8 in the morning and their appointment's at 10 and they might still not come. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we're still working through those pieces, but it's a significant difference. And it's helped us to utilize more of our appointment times, which is really important as well. Any questions on any of that?
So when they come in, I should
Yes.
know this, but when they come in for the assessment initially, then you set up appointments for them. I mean, they don't see anybody but the person giving the assessment that day.
Yeah, so the day of the appointment, we'll schedule them, so it could be, hey, we'll get you in a half an hour, and then they meet with our care coordinator first for about a half an hour, and they do all these screening tools, gather their background information, and then they meet with the clinician for about an hour and a half and do a full evaluation of all of their health needs, physical health, emotional health, substance use health needs, and then from there we make the referrals. And at that appointment, the clinician will say, hey, these are all the recommendations we're going to give you. Then those referrals go back to the care coordinator, and the care coordinator calls that person to set up next steps.
And we used to we allow how many no-shows? Are we still doing that? And then we
Three.
don't.
Three is kind of the number, yeah.
And,
We have a care coordinator who manages that.
okay.
For new evals, it was like 1 or 2, and I know they're updating that policy. So if you call in and you no-show your first eval, we'll allow you to schedule 1 more, and then after that, then we kind of work with that person to say, hey, we'll call you if we have a cancel, and you can immediately get in. But that's the hard part. Yeah.
And that's not a very high rate, is it?
It's not. No.
All right, thank you.
I just had a question. You had mentioned your budget was it 16 million, 15 million this
It
year?
was 15 in 2021, and this year it went up to 20.
So, yeah, 25% increase. What, can you describe how that, where is that increase? How is that spread out? Are we gonna get more services? Are we, when a taxpayer asks me, I gotta say, okay, well, what did we buy it for $5 million?
Yeah.
What did Meeker County get for $5 million on 25% increase? Is it more service? Is it, more
Right.
clients? Where is that
Right.
balance
So we
through
are
your
seeing
budget?
more clients, but it's a lot of it is because we added CCBHC, so we're adding more
more staff.
Services?
Yep, more services. So we added care coordination, which is really a model of care. And so we added 16, I think, care coordinators, which are going to help manage the health and well-being of all of our clients. So they are going to help people get into services, track their appointments, make sure they're attending those appointments across all, just not in Woodland Centers, but across all of their care delivery. So helping them to hopefully have better wellness. So that's a piece of it. And then we added more providers. We added medication-assisted treatment services. We've added substance use services. We've added targeted case management services, peer support services. So, yeah, wide range of things that have been added to add to that budget.
And I don't know how the Woodland model works or what, but I mean, there's obviously tremendous discussion around mental health at state capitol. And so is there funding streams that Woodlands is able to tap into as well from the state level to help assist with better, to overall enhance the services that you can do? I mean, I know there's funding either in place or more coming. I mean, with the talk that's
with the world as it is right now.
and with the conversation, if legislators ain't talking about it, you ain't getting no money, but they are talking about mental health, and that's why it's just.
Yep. So part of our budget change, honestly, was moving to CCBHC, and so that payment it's a delivery model of care, right? And so it's looking at the whole health. It's being integrated, but from the payment side, it looks at a cost-based reimbursement. So it's not just hitting MA rates, which were not sustainable over time. We actually get paid a rate for each service we deliver at what it actually costs to deliver the service, which includes the cost for those care coordinators and includes some of the admin that we, the indirect that we never could get costs for before. So that is where a lot of that revenue came from, is being able to become the CCBHC and get paid for what it costs to actually deliver the service.
Okay, and then my follow-up to that question would be, your contract equates to $22.34 per year per resident.
Correct.
What was it prior? Do we have those numbers? If that's 2023 contract, I'm assuming that's figuring in that 25%. It's figuring in your budget. So I was just curious. That $22.34 per resident, was it 17 last year? Was it? Just.
I don't have the number, but I can calculate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Ashley, is the goal then too for 2024 for the new POS to have performance merit? Because as a county perspective, that really determines how well we are taking care of our constituents. I mean, is that our goal? Because I was hoping it would be in the 2023 contract, but it doesn't look like it yet.
It actually is in the 2022 contract, so it's in this year's contract, it's in 2023, and it will be ongoing. Yep.
So we will have performance merit as far as what Woodlands is doing for our clients in Meeker County.
Yep, and those have been sent to social service directors every quarter for the 2022. So those would be brought forward by the social service director to the board.
So we'll know then if our schools aren't receiving the care we should be, hoping that the schools want to, we'll be able to see that in that particular
I don't know
contract.
if that number would, I think there's a lot of data, a lot of information, like to say would a school be getting the services that they want, that would be a school metric, not necessarily something we could deliver. You know what I mean? That would be really hard for us to put into a data point. We can, and that's not part of the POS contract, so that wouldn't be in the data. We do not allocate dollars to schooling mental health through the POS. So what you would see in the data would be only those places in which we allocate dollars to the purchase of service. So that would be things like outpatient therapy, comp evals, psychiatry services, adult day treatment services. I think those are most of the outpatient services that we deliver that are a part of the contract. And then crisis and detox, youth crisis and detox.
And I think where Steve's alluding to on the 2234 is it ends up being, if you multiply that by the residents, like 550,000. So that can't be correct. 'Cause
That's
it's
across our 7 counties.
Right.
So that's the total dollar amount for our total purchase of service divided by the total population for 2021.
Because I think we're at 380-ish, something like
So I
that, plus the
didn't break it down by
1%.
county.
Yeah,
So
but
if
if it
I
goes
looked
up
at Meeker County in particular,
But
it's 16.
It's only supposed to increase 1%. That's where
That's where
I'm,
I was,
that's where I'm confused in terms of what, like,
you
your
know, I
question.
just took it, yeah.
Yeah.
500 and some thousand and then the 1%, that's where I was. You're,
I-
we're asking the same question.
No, I know, I just don't know how that,
Yeah, alright.
Commissioner Ober. I
Yes,
think we're good with the 1%. One of the things that we really are appreciative is that they're changing some of the dynamics on the pay-as-you-go for detox. Financially, I think this is an okay position. I think when we get through this year, we'll need to look at next year's contract for the cost and see how the CCBHC and some of the initiatives that Woodland Centers is bringing forward to really kind of manage their costs and the delivery of services. So I believe we're okay,
okay.
if that helps.
Yeah, I was just trying
Helps
to.
for me.
Yeah, I
navigate
get
the-
your questions. It's kind of a lot of stuff going on, and I know Ashley's been working with the directors group to try to kind of sort through this stuff and see where those funds are allocated.
Okay.
I thought from the emails I had gotten that was all established and taken care of.
Pardon me,
I thought by the emails I'd been receiving that the contracts were okay, you'd worked on them together, and you were happy moving forward with the contract for this year and the increase.
Yes, I'm
Okay,
presenting
I
that
just
today
wanted to
after
be clear about
Tiffany.
that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just when, like you said, when Steve does the math, it equals to like 550,000. I think that's your question, it's like, does that mean we see an increase, but it's just
Well,
a
and-
1% increase.
And what was that number last year? Was,
Yeah.
the 2234 is moving forward, but was it
Right.
20 or 18 or?
I'm assuming it's 25% less.
So 2234 is across our entire, so as Woodland Centers, we look at all 7 counties and everybody we serve. We don't necessarily break things down by county unless it is for our purchase of service contract. So when I talk about the 2234 per resident, it's across our entire 7-county region. Yeah, so each county,
Yeah,
if you looked
yeah.
at it, it would be different. It wouldn't be that number, when you look at your purchase of service in your.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
it's a little bit different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Any more questions on that? Okay. Go ahead, Ashley.
All right, so for 2022, I can just kind of jump into the next page. Some of the things that we accomplished, again, we talked about CCBHC certification, which honestly subsumed most of our 2021 year because it was just a lot. It took everything we did and flipped it on its head. It changed the way we do assessments. It changed the way we evaluate our clients. It changed the way we refer to services. Really looking at the whole health of an individual, looking at how can we better coordinate care for individuals. And so it really has taken everything we do and changed it. And so on top of that, doing that through the middle of a pandemic. So it's been a lot for our staff. Luckily, I would say at this point, knock on wood, we are doing pretty well with staffing. We are short in some areas. We can always use more, but we are getting some folks to come to our door and actually come back when they have left. So I think that's also a testament to our internal culture that people leave and figure out that it's maybe not always greener and are wanting to come back and work for Woodland Center. So staffing is always a challenge, though, as everybody comes forward and says, right? It's always the number one thing right now. One of the pieces that we've grown a lot is in substance use services. We're seeing a huge need for this. So we have added an adolescent substance use program in our Wilmer office. And so that program started last January and has been full since we opened the doors. We also have medication-assisted treatment, and what this really is when somebody is struggling with an opiate use disorder or an alcohol use disorder or even a tobacco use disorder, we can prescribe medication to help people manage the withdrawal symptoms, but also some of the cravings that go along with that. And we have specialized providers that can provide those services. So it's really exciting to be able to offer that in our communities. We are also a naloxone access site for our communities, and we're the only one in this region that is doing this. The closest, I believe, is St. Cloud. And what that means is that anybody who might be around somebody who would be using opiates and has a potential for overdose can come to our clinic, no questions asked. We will give them a naloxone kit, which has 3 doses. And naloxone is a medication that helps somebody live if they're having an overdose from opiates. And so we hand these kits out. So far, we've handed out over 200 kits in our region, actually just in Wilmer. We are now extending that out to our other counties. And so that is 600 doses. So potentially 600 lives saved. And we know how fentanyl is in everything right now, and that is another drug we just need to be very cautious about. So we're hoping that it's saving lives. And our next step in that then is once somebody gets these medications and hopefully we save their life, maybe then they're willing to come get treatment and will be available when they're ready. So really taking that harm reduction approach. School-Link Behavioral Health is coming in 2023. And what this is our ability, so we have School-Link Mental Health, which is having therapists and skills providers in the schools, but this allows us to put a licensed alcohol drug counselor in the schools because we know that kids are using drugs. We know that there's problems happening, and so the hope with this is do a lot more prevention, early intervention, education, and then once we identify if a child is experiencing substance use disorder problems, then we can refer to our programs and services and get them into care faster. So that is our hope with that program. We applied for the grant, we have not heard back yet. DHS is really behind on all of their grant writing or grant processes right now, so we are hoping to hear in January if we're successful with that grant application. So the other thing we added this year was urgent care. We've always had our mobile crisis team, but what we are doing is we know some people don't want our mobile team to come to their home. They don't necessarily want to come to crisis, but they want to go somewhere and see somebody. So we added urgent care. Come on in, we'll have somebody see you. It's mostly our mobile team that sees them. We can do an assessment, we can help you with next steps, and then refer you, and typically people go home from there. So it's taking our mobile team, but people come to our office and see us instead of us going to them, and we can offer any option on what people need, so it's just another way to help people access services in a timely manner. And then the purchase of service we've talked a little bit about, so I won't go into all of that, but again, happy to answer any questions you all have about Woodland in general, about whatever else you might.
I have one, just so we can back up, how do you say it, naloxone?
Naloxone?
Is that, can you describe, I'm fire and rescue, so
Yeah, absolutely.
what is that exactly? Sounds like Narcan, but it's not Narcan.
It would, so
It
it's
is
Narcan.
It is Narcan,
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
That
Yep.
answers.
And we were giving out, so we have a grant actually for, with the Hope Network, and so they give us free kits. So we're not paying for any of those kits, we get them for free, and then we can provide education and training for people who obtain those kits, so that we can get it out in the community.
So are we gonna be handing it out, like, in our county through you?
Actually, I think, from my understanding is the project is actually gonna have some of the naloxone available at the Woodland Centers.
Oh,
And
is
that's still to be determined how that's gonna be dispensed. All of our staff at social services, our social workers and our clerical staff are going to be participating in the training of administration underneath this grant, so we'll have that available. We're hoping that we can also expand some of our public health department in that. And I don't know, we haven't had any conversations with the sheriff or our local
That was
law
gonna be my
enforcement
next
yet.
question. Do you get training in that, or?
Yeah, we have to have our medical director approve that we're okay to administer and.
So it's a needle, right? It's a shot.
This is a shot. There's also the nasal kind where you can, but we don't have those. We don't have those ones. At Woodland Centers, if somebody comes to any of our offices I believe at this point, if not in the near future, if you come to our clinic and you ask for a kit, we will hand you one. No questions asked.
How prevalent is it, Brandy, if you know, in our county, fentanyl? Is it?
I just charged out a complaint on Monday, last Thursday, I think it was, Friday, for fentanyl
It's in
in the
everything.
pills, so.
It's in everything. They're putting it now in meth, in marijuana, in everything, and it gives a different high if you don't die from it.
So
And
that's why they do it, for a
that's
better
right.
high, cheaper? Is that the?
And it's cheaper.
But
It's
it can
cheaper.
kill you. just
And it-
bigger than,
Prevalent.
pardon?
The volume of it's very prevalent.
Okay,
But people
So-
don't always know. They don't
Right.
know. They don't know what they're taking, so they think that they're taking meth. They think that they're taking marijuana, and then they're overdosing because they don't know that the fentanyl's in there.
I actually saw something on TV last week where a police officer did a stop, and she must have inhaled it,
Yes.
and she like died on the ground.
Right.
They had to, you were talking about the inhaling.
There was.
They
a-
gave her like she was like out like that. It was scary
Doesn't take
stuff.
very much to kill a person.
No, it's scary. She was like
They
dead on the
were-
ground, they said.
They were lacing water bottles, and I believe it was in St. Cloud. I mean, this came through rescue. And they leave them lay various places, and if you touch it, get it on your, I mean, it's,
Yeah, it's
Not
dangerous for
scary.
personnel going, I mean, EMS going into homes, it's dangerous for our staff that are going into homes. You don't necessarily know what you're walking into, and
It's dangerous for our social workers.
absolutely,
We've,
absolutely.
a partner county, close to us, a social worker came into contact doing a home visit and had some serious
Wow.
complications as well. So it's really causing us to pay attention to
Yep.
PPE and really, you know, is there a naloxone? If we have a staff member that comes into contact, how can we make sure that we save them?
What's most disappointing is that for criminal consequences, the consequences are very minimal. So this year with legislation, we're working to make sure that it is actually at a severity level of heroin. So it's a 5th degree just to possess fentanyl, even though they could be such deadly doses. So it's very disappointing to see that the criminal side isn't kept up to what's going on with
Sad,
reality.
scary.
and then to kind of piggyback off that from our, you know, we're just in the process. This has been, we've been on calls where they've administered Narcan already when we get there, and we're like, where did you get Narcan? We can't even administer. So we're probably 3 years behind the curve, I would say, on our rescue squads. I mean, today, Eden Valley Rescue cannot administer Narcan. We will, I would say, in 2023 at some point. But I mean, that just shows you how far behind the drug activity we
Right.
end up, you know.
Scary.
And we've worked with our marketing team, marketing person, or I shouldn't say team person, to really make a flyer for this Narcan, for the naloxone, because the people we're targeting, of course, we want social services to have it, we want our staff to have it, but the people that really need it are those that are in those circles using, because they're gonna be the people that are around the others that are using as well. And so if you have that available and you know that your friend is overdosing, you can then administer and hopefully save their life. So we want it for everybody, but it is also for those folks that are in those circles. So that might be where they're getting it, you know, is to be able to have that available, unfortunately.
I think most of the deputies probably carry it, or
Yes.
a
Yep.
good portion. Law enforcement.
Any other questions for Ashley? Were you
Nope, that's it. Whatever you guys have for questions.
trying to catch up? Anybody? Well, thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Drive
very
careful.
much for
Merry
your support.
Christmas.
Always, yes, happy holidays. Thank you.
Thanks.
Paul Bokovich, Social Service Director.
I just got to tell it one of my nephews.
Good morning.
Oh. Was an inside joke, nothing.
So
But you're letting it outside.
Yeah, I really don't care that one. Holidays.
See you, Ashley. Thank you.
My order of business for you today is to approve our contracts. Tiffany is here today. And so those are two of the contracts that we're gonna have the most significant changes in this year. One, CCT is a contract that we've had on hold. We've been working under a stale contract for a number of years, and CCT is finally got to a point where they could bring it forward, and the member counties have agreed on the language of the contract. And it's ensuring that there is an increase in the administrative expense based on a per mile rate to ensure the viability and the administration of the volunteer driver program. What had occurred in the past, and I know this is something that Tiffany has been working to rectify, is they received some grants from the Department of Transportation, and that's been used to subsidize the volunteer driver program. This increase actually assists in cleaning up those books. It is not out of line with what we're seeing as far as administrative costs going forward. CCT is a valued provider of transportation in our community and continues to meet our demands. In fact, really exceeded our expectations through the COVID time by ensuring that folks were getting where they needed to go and kept the buses running and the transportation flowing, and that was very important to meet the needs of our constituency, so we're appreciative of that.
So our question was, did you budget that amount in?
Yes.
It was budgeted.
Yep.
Maybe
Yep,
you said
yep, we're
it.
good.
That was our only question I
Yep.
think we had about the contract for
We're
CCT.
good there. Woodland Center's contract is another contract. I know some of that language came forward. We did budget for the 1% increase, and so we're okay with that as well.
Okay.
There has been some contract language changes to ensure that we were meeting the requirements for indemnification. In review of the contract for those board members that sit on the Woodland Center's board, the terms of the indemnification that had been in the previous contract didn't really fully meet, I think, the protections required for those positions sitting on that board. Woodland Centers has been very open to doing some changes on the POS contract, and there's still a lot of work to be done on the contract. But given the short turnaround time from the receipt of the contract and some confusion with the directors as to how to proceed with the changes of the contract, we felt that it was okay to leave some of that language in, and then we would be working as a directors group throughout the year to develop two significant components that are absent in the contract. One is meaningful performance metrics to ensure that what we're paying for, we're getting in a quality of service kind of manner for our constituency as well as the other member counties. And this has been agreed upon by the directors group for all of the member counties. The other component of this is a resolution dispute process. What happens if you don't meet the performance metrics? Like anything that is contractual, we should have that. We have a very close relationship with Woodland Centers, so it's very difficult to just say we're gonna pick up our ball and walk away. We don't want to do that because they are really the backbone of our mental health continuum of care that meets the regional needs. We need to ensure that we're really looking at the same thing. And we're statutorily required to have that language in contracts. There are also some things that are in the contract that hold Woodland Centers accountable for things that we're not paying for. And for Woodland Centers, we're not paying for those things. One of those might be legislative involvement. It's very difficult to say that we're using our tax dollars, which are intended to purchase services for clients, that they may be perceived as being used for legislative efforts. And I think that we need to clean up some of that language. And Woodland Centers has brought that forward. We just had one member county that was not interested in doing that at this point in time. So we're going to be working together as a directors group to address those issues and ensure that those performance metrics meet all of the member counties' requirements for their constituency. So we look forward to some changes coming into the future. We also look forward to a lot of the initiatives that Woodland Centers is bringing forward. It's very difficult just in the last couple of years with the CCBHC. That's a big beast, right? And that's a big change for their organization, and we're hopeful that that continues to progress as it has been. So, the other contract that I have that is new this year and that's for Caseworks. Caseworks is an electronic document management system. Currently, we're working with ISC, and we're intending to move away from ISC, moving into Caseworks, which is a platform that is more usable for our staff to navigate as well as to share, transfer, process documents. The significant difference is that Caseworks has a lot of counties in Minnesota and have been working very closely with them. They own the proprietary rights for the software, where ISC does not own the proprietary rights for application extender. If there are operational challenges or corrections that we need to have completed in the software, ISC is not able to do that. They need to go to the parent company that owns the proprietary rights for the software, and they may or they may not be addressed. In our experience, they have not been addressed, and so it creates some challenges for us. We've been in this project for about 3 years now, looking at different softwares to manage our documents. We've had a lot of conversations with a lot of counties, and all of the counties that have migrated from application extender to Caseworks have seen a significant buyback in time for staff and administration, where they've been able to reallocate that time to customer service and case-specific work, and that's our intent to do at that time as well. Other than that, they're pretty much standard contracts coming forward that really have no significant changes in cost or wording of the contract.
Paul, on Caseworks, did we budgeted for the 479? Was that the number we used because we didn't know if we were gonna get the 30%?
We budgeted for the 479,
Yep.
yes, but we are likely going to see those dollars not materialize because we are getting
The multi-county discount
Yes.
is what it was,
Yeah.
so.
And we were paying for that primarily out of fund balance, and so whatever ends up whatever savings we reap is gonna be money that we're gonna just save in our fund balance, in that fund.
In the social
human
service fund balance, yep.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
So I have a couple questions about Central Minnesota Jobs and Training.
Yes.
So tell me how they bill us.
They bill us through a grant.
Okay.
They bill us directly, but it's a pass-through funding that we receive from the state of Minnesota as partial state and federal dollars that goes to pay for these services through the DWP and FIP program.
Right, so I read that. So tell me, what do they do for us?
Okay.
They work on individuals that have a work component. When an individual is on MFIP or displaced worker program, there is a work component to their eligibility and ongoing eligibility for that program.
So they find a place for them.
They work on their job skills and assist them in obtaining employment, or actually assess if the individual has the capacity to gain meaningful employment. So they're working with us on those individuals and what are if they're not able to gain meaningful employment based on a criteria of disabling conditions, then they will assist us in developing a plan onto how that individual's needs are going to be met moving forward.
So are we using them more or less than we did before, or the same?
Our numbers are increasing gradually. Just looking at our financial services numbers, they're increasing, and so we're seeing an increase of our utilization of them, but still within the grant fund. So we're not looking at any county levy funds going into this at this point. However, I could see without a grant growth, based on our numbers, that there could be. I don't see that this year. And the grant has always grown commensurate with our population growth in those program areas, not our population overall, but the numbers of individuals coming into the program. Our grant is based on utilization.
So do you have a number? How many people last year?
Off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I
Just
don't. I'm not.
ballpark?
I would say probably about 500-600 folks.
And they just spend time with them, teaching them skills to get a job or determining?
Actually, job procurement, yes.
So and then they help you decide if they can be placed in a job. I've never quite understood what.
They actually do the placement work.
So they find a place for them.
Sure, if that person's able to get meaningful employment, and they will provide the supports for that individual to be successful in that job.
And then we have follow-up as to how long, if they succeed, how long they last in a job.
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are those figures available?
They are.
Stats? I would
Yes,
like to see them sometime.
I certainly can. I will get that for you.
Thank you.
In fact, I will look, I know Barb was here,
Yeah, she was here a few weeks ago.
but we'll try to get some local data.
Yep, that'd be
from them.
great. Thank you.
And I think the other piece to that too, if you're looking for work, they'll, and you don't really know what you're looking for, they'll help, give you, assessments and identify
Right.
your strengths and then and then show you where them opportunities are and kinda take you as far as, or, you know, as far as you need, or if that's not very far, you know, they'll stop there, or you can take the full meal deal.
I'm surprised
you
to
know,
hear
type of
that
deal.
they're busy because nobody can find anybody. So
Well, that's
I'm
part
just
of it.
trying to put all these pieces together. We're spending money and nobody's, the
But
job
then
market isn't
the
improving,
employers,
so.
that's when, now they work with the other side to help,
I understand
you know,
that part.
so
I
it's
do.
twofold.
I would just like to see some numbers if I can.
Yeah, sure thing. I think that's a good question to ask, you know, especially when we're looking at all of these vacant positions
Right.
open.
One thing on that, I think when we were going through the tour, we went through there and I thought one of them said that they were helping with unemployment too. And that felt like that was almost contradicting what they
Thank
should
you.
be doing. I know that's what you're kind of alluding to, but I didn't understand that piece of why they deal with that
Well,
part.
the intent and purposes is the way the programs are written, they're time limited.
Uh-huh.
And so people run up to the end of their time, they're gonna lose that benefit set, right?
Okay.
And so they need to move them to a different benefit set. And unemployment could be a part of that, to take them off of that MFIP or that displaced worker program roles, because that unemployment is a funding mechanism that has a lot more money available to it than the MFIP or the DWP has for the family.
So that's just part of their role then? Is, that's the part I'm always trying to figure out all this stuff and I'm like going, if you're in a
Well,
job.
it's trying to create a sustainable financial platform for the family to be successful,
Okay,
is what.
I
they're-
just didn't know that was part
Whether
of their
that's moving them
platform.
into work, or moving them into social security disability,
Mhm.
or moving them into another funding mechanism.
Okay.
To meet their needs.
Are they in the office full-time over there now?
Yes.
They weren't when we did that.
I think they do most of their stuff still virtually though.
They were just coming out of COVID when we took the tour. I think,
Yeah,
real
there
close.
was-
It was like basically empty when we went through. That's why it's like going.
Like a
That
lot
was-
of benevolent organizations, there's just not a lot of traffic yet, because a lot of the virtual options are still available. We're just starting to see more folks coming into the office as far as customers now, but it's still a fraction of what it was prior to COVID.
It's just when you're looking from this side in, and you know that you could fill 3 positions tomorrow if people could just come in and speak in full sentences, basically, with training. And then I look at all this money here, there, and the other place, and I'm thinking, and nothing changing, then that's what, and then, like Danny said, then they're helping people stay on unemployment, basically, or get an extension, or training them. You know, do people really not know that they're unemployed? When you're on unemployment, it's supposed to be a temporary thing, and you're supposed to be seeking work, which maybe that's just that's probably another can of worms too, so.
But
Anyway,
there's
I'd
a-
just be interested in the
Yeah, there's
numbers.
a lot of layers to that.
I
that don't think we
understand.
wanna go into.
No, we
But I
don't,
think-
not
I think
today.
there's some, just sitting on just starting to sit on the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Board, I think your input, Commissioner Oberg, and as a group, this is a vehicle to bring some of those questions to bear, and I'll certainly try to bring some of that information back to you. Whether it's going to change the landscape or not, but at least it's providing that information, and it might give some direction to how they're operating as well. So certainly, I think we should be having this dialogue. It's very important.
All right, any other questions on these are we gonna vote on these all at once, eh?
Yes, we have one motion for all of the contracts. If you would like to split
No,
one
I
out
think we're gonna
separately,
do it all at
them
once.
all
If you have that
individually.
one motion available, I would be looking for somebody to do it.
Should be on there.
That's on there.
Let her rip, somebody. Mr. Johnson, are you ready?
You see this resolution?
Read it. Get on
It
it.
took me a year to write.
Oh, yeah. Let's hope it doesn't
How
take
about
a year
how-
to read. We wanna be out of here
It took
soon.
me a
How
year to
about this
gather
one?
just that short little presentation I made too.
How about
Alright.
if we just say, I move to approve the 2023 annual social services contracts?
Does that work?
I think that
I
works,
just-
and then we'll
I
take the
just
text
did
of the motion and
We have a motion
Second,
put it in the minutes.
and we have a second, Paul.
Good.
yeah.
Is this a resolution? No, okay. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much for your time this
Pleasure.
morning.
Phil Schmalz, Public Works Director. Approve out-of-state travel.
boring night.
Morning.
Actually do.
Good morning, Phil.
You do.
It's okay.
Again, Phil Schmalz, Public Works Director. One item for you to consider this morning. Consider approval of out-of-state travel for Public Works Director, myself, to attend the 2023 National Association of County Engineers Annual Meeting and Technical Conference. It's down in Baldwin County, Alabama this year. So NACE, or the National County Engineers Association, is the national affiliate of our Minnesota County Engineers Association.
And it says that 2,000 was budgeted, but it's a little bit over that?
Correct.
Or, okay, yeah.
Yeah, when I cost out the actual, the reservations for the registration, the hotel and the air, it would be about $2,200.
Looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the state travel for the Public Works Director to attend the 2023 National Association of County Engineers Annual Meeting, Technical Conference in Baldwin County, Alabama.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Questions?
Is that anywhere near Greenbow?
I'm not that.
Is this a Forrest Gump?
How come you don't know that?
Is it in the summertime is really what the question is.
Well, it'll be warmer
April.
there than here.
That's
It's
for
April.
Yeah. Oh, April.
Yep.
So you won't. Sunblock is an extra
Being
then.
nicer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
How did you're maybe gonna tell us, how did the snow removal go?
It's been a busy December.
Yeah.
We haven't had a lot of snowfall, but it blows and blows. And what's coming up, we're not looking forward to, certainly. What we're seeing right now is we're talking maybe half a foot of snow on Wednesday, but then 20, 30, 40 mile an hour winds for days and cold. So
Would it
it's hard on
surprise you to know I had some phone calls the other day about,
Yeah,
I drove 45 miles an hour in Meeker, the minute I hit McLeod, I was at 65.
Yep.
I told him that's not gonna happen anymore, I promised.
okay. Yeah, and we have had some minor staffing challenges, just with availability of some of the part-timers.
I
but
thought
that's
I
normal.
thought we had solved part of that, Phil.
We're adding, but we're also losing. I think we lost two of our reliable part-timers this year, and then there's scheduling conflicts and illness, some of it with our part-time group.
McLeod must not have that issue.
It's a constant battle, and we have a lot of miles to cover. We get
Oh,
calls every-
gosh, well,
Well, it's nice though. I had to respond to a constituent and Phil was able to look it up and say, no, they passed this road at such and such a time and we
Are
can
we-
get back
do
to
we
him and
not
give him
get
some definitive
out-
answer, so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we not get out as early as other counties?
Depends on the event. I'd say typically we're not starting as early because we're more concerned about how long it's actually gonna take us to cover our routes. Like, in my experience in McLeod, we would cover our routes in 2 or 3 hours. Here, we're talking 5 hours typically on our paved system only. If we're covering our gravels too, we're talking a full day. And it varies, like with the wet snow we had, we were driving 20, 25 miles an hour versus 30, maybe 40. Because that wet snow will destroy anything it hits at high speed. So every event's different, but I know our time to cover our system is higher than our neighbors. And that's the bulk of the complaints we get, is they want roads clean so they can drive to work. And we don't have the capacity to do that.
So hiring more people hasn't helped.
It's better than it would be without it, but we've lost part-timers to offset those hires to this point.
And ultimately, that's the challenge that we've been fighting, is that we've been relying so much on our part-time staff that we knew that roster was dwindling to begin with. And so the two additional full-time hires that we made this past year are assisting with that. The full-time parks maintenance worker who we hired last year is assisting with that, but there was still a handful of folks who were working really reliably with us, and if they're not available, well, now we have those, we filled some spots that we were having a hard time filling because we didn't have as many reliable folks. Well, now when our reliable part-time people leave, we have more spots we have to fill. And so that's the challenge that we continue to face.
We were kind of ahead of what was coming.
For real.
As the part-timers leave. So I mean, we're in a much better situation now than we could have been had we not been adding where we did. But we run about 25 routes. So if you think about adding a couple of folks, it's not like we're gonna double our system. I mean, it would take a massive investment to make significant improvements on our route times.
And that's the key piece here, is that we were gonna lose these part-time people anyway. And so if we're not filling them with either new part-time people or with the full-time staff, which is the approach that we've taken, then our service is gonna continue to diminish because we aren't finding new people to take on those part-time roles.
How's the transition? Did Carlin leave then? So how's that transition working? Is that working all right with the new software and everything in terms of the maps and
So
stuff?
far, so good. Ed is doing a good job. You know, he was able to try it out while Carlin was here for a couple of months. So I think that was extremely beneficial, especially for that position. The AVL that we started using, I think, last year has been great, if nothing else for me. But where Ed uses it a lot, we have a route completion map, so the color of the road changes as the plow crosses it. So you can look at a map and look at what's red versus what's green and make sure we didn't miss anything. See how far along we are, allocate resources to a different part of the county if we're ahead here and behind there. So it's been great, and it helps answer questions when people wonder about plow times and when they're coming or when they've been here. I can actually access that data.
I think the only real bad problem was when it got sloppy. There's that time area where you had to get one more time, and I think it was a timing issue where you had to move the slop off the road. You know, is what I think the issue was coming around.
Snow and ice is about timing a lot of the times, cause you're not early enough or you're out too early and then you're late enough. I don't think you're ever 100% right.
I plow snow for the church, I guarantee you're not 100%.
Well, okay then.
Yeah.
As much as we change, everything stays the same. Thanks, Phil. Merry
Thanks, Phil.
Christmas.
Thank you, you too.
Say hi to Forrest for us in April.
Barb Locke, County Auditor.
Morning, Commissioners. Barbara.
Morning.
Morning.
Before you, I have some information on an addendum to our memorandum of agreement with Extension. And thanks to both Julie and Danny working on this, the horticulture position was added in 2022, and by the tri-county agreement and seeing funding by delaying that hire and some other factors that weighed in, we ended up with some extra budget funds and have a proposal to move forward, and all three counties are on board with this, to move forward in 2023 with that being a full-time position, so that we have a horticulture educator on board for the full-time. What that will do to our memorandum of agreement, this is a memorandum agreement number 2 change, which is due to expire in 2024, and it has some budget impacts. For Meeker County specifically, the budget impact was an increase of about $5,100 and $5,300 in those 2 years. And hoping that that will be taken from the excess in the budget that we have, so it shouldn't be an impact on the bottom line through 2024. So before you is a request to have addendum to memorandum of agreement, addendum number 2, approved to amend the 2023-2024.
Okay. Julie, somebody.
I'll move to approve the addendum to the memorandum of agreement between the U of M and Meeker County for 2023 and 2024.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Schiffelbein. Can you just tell me what a horticulture educator does?
It's the one that works with the crop and crop management, so it's a specialized, instead of having educators like we've had a few years where it was not exactly their expertise, they did the crops, they did dairy, and they did, what was the third one? Now we have specialists in 3 areas, and we share those 3 specialists among the 3 counties. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what kind of questions would they answer? I'm just curious.
Well, they work with Master Gardener, they work with anything that has to do with plants.
Plants.
Horticulture, seeds, whatever.
By a question,
Bugs and
seeds
plants
or,
and-
The whole thing was, before we had to use one person who was a livestock person, and then they had to cover all these other aspects
So
of
they didn't have the
agriculture that they didn't have an expertise to. We combined with 2 other counties and say, let's have the 3 predominant ones and share the costs.
Sure.
And it was the same model that I think Stearns, Benton, and
Right, Morrison.
Morrison did already. So we're just,
It's pretty common among extensions to share experts in.
I think that part is great, I just wasn't sure how busy they would
Master
be.
gardeners is
Yeah, and-
one of the key.
and what we're doing too is actually, we started it off at 3/4 rate for the horticulturists to ease it in the budget. And then we actually had a hard time, let's see, we just didn't fill it in for a half a year, but we budgeted in. And you're using some of those money budgeted already to take care of the full-time costs. That's why it's not a big hindrance in 2023-24.
Right, and I think it had something to do with bringing in the correct candidate, and the candidate
Right.
wasn't available right away, so we ended up with budget extra dollars.
Cool. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you, Barb. Now we'll recess the county board and convene the county ditch authority.
And that, John is here with me for, as we know, we've got numerous, loans out there, and we also had sent out payment requests in November. Due to the timing, I wasn't able to retire as many loans as I thought I could. However, the payments are coming in very strong, and I believe that we probably will be in that 70-75% of bill, analysis when we get done. So before you today, because of the November tax settlement and the likely settlement that we'll be doing in December, I found that we could retire 5 of our loans, at least a portion of them. And then also, I unfortunately do need to request a new loan for County Ditch 35 because there is a deficit on that particular account. The idea is to keep the accounts in the black and also to reflect that at year end, so it doesn't go into the financial as a negative account using another fund without interest. So the revenue fund will now have a loan balance after this payment or at year end of about $521,000. You know that largely still is about half on that judicial ditch 52, which has a 10-year payment plan, which will, linger for quite some time for us. So the motion that I have is to transfer funds from the ditch to revenue to retire those loans on 12, 17, 19, joint 32 and 52 in the amount of $136,000. And then a second motion, please, to approve a loan for County Ditch 35 for $25,000. And I did use 3% interest, or suggesting that, because that's what we've used throughout 2022.
Looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve transferring funds from ditch to revenue to retire loans for County Ditch 12, 17, 19, and joint ditches 32 and 52, the amount of $136,000 plus $3,652.84 worth of interest.
Second?
Could we take both of her requests, or do they have to be?
She asked for 2.
You wanted them separate?
Motion by,
Better so that it really identifies them.
motion by Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Schiefelbein, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Madam Madam Chair, I'll move to approve ditch loan from revenue fund to County Ditch 35 for $25,000 at 3% interest.
Motion by Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Bredesen. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Barb?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll adjourn the County Ditch Authority and reconvene the county board. Greg Schultz, Land Use Director.
Yeah, I could do it now here. Oh, who's that?
John, about the Thursday meeting. Who makes the
Should we take a break, guys?
We should have asked him earlier.
Greg's like, no, we wanna proceed.
We can now.
Board, I got 3 items, a CUP for business, water plant funding, and gas
We can
management. First item I got is a CUP for Dan Berryhill for a building systems automation business at his property. This is located about a mile southwest of Darwin, on parcel 060282010. This business is going to be getting automation systems for heating and cooling for private businesses. He gets computer systems shipped to his property there, then he programs them and he tests them out, and then he goes to the sites and reinstalls them. So, right now, he just has himself and another employee, plans to pull as many as 6. In the future, he's using the old chicken barn right now for his offices. Eventually, he wants to create a new office on the property for his business.
Okay, looking
So-
from,
He owns the barns already, or?
Yep, he owns one.
Okay. And he has land adjacent?
Yep, he owns the property to the north, and he owns
Which
13
one?
acres to the south.
Okay, that's his.
That's his there, yep. That's why this is a CUP and not a IUP with a level 2, it's a separate parcel than one he lives on. Standalone property.
Who's that? Yours, Beth?
yes. I don't like to.
Madam Chair, I move to approve conditional use permit for parcel 06-0282010 to operate a building and systems automation business in the A1 Agricultural Preservation District with the conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen, do I hear a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Next item I have is water plan funding for 2023. This year we had 6 lakes apply for granting, they approved for 5 of the lakes. So approved the water testing, this year will be for $500 per lake, last year was $400 per lake. We also pay out tier 1 fee to the Crow River District. This is out of this funds. We also are planning on buying water testing kits. Last year we bought 4 kits for lakes. This year we're gonna buy as much as $2,500 will allow it to spread out to the lakes for their individual testing. So, the lakes that were approved for projects was Big Swan, their outlet structure Weir, that's for lake stabilization. It's been on the docket for years. Lake Jenny, got a septic incentive, septic inventory request approved for $4,000. Lake Washington got a sediment and grade stabilization project approved. Lake Ripley got some shoreline restoration. And 2 residents approved, and Star Lake has an aeration ongoing project that was approved, 2,400. The 5 that were approved.
Who drew the short straw? Who didn't get?
Clear Lake for the vegetative management.
That was not a long-term plan. That was a 1-year fix. And the purpose of the committee is to look at things that will affect the lake for the long term, not a shorter term, so.
Yeah, I don't, vegetation won't fall into that.
Your native vegetation, you can kill it for 1 year, but it's coming back the next year.
That's what I mean, it wouldn't fall into the criteria.
No.
Okay, I was just curious.
What is county in-kind funds? What is, I'm sure you guys talked about it at that meeting.
You have some lakes that don't have the funds, so they're allowed to do it through what's called in-kind, where they use the people that live on the lake to perform certain tasks. So their cost is free because they're doing them, however, they have a value. So that value is applied as in-kind. Did I explain that correctly, Greg?
Yeah, it's gotta be at least 50% of the project's gotta be
Yeah.
either coming from the Lake District or volunteer work,
Gotcha.
of the scope of the project.
Madam Chair, move to approve the water plan project's funding recommended by the water plan group.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Shifelbein. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Next item I have is the approval of the 2023 aquatic invasive species prevention management plan. This one here, some notes here. This new management plan, Minnesota DNR prevention planner Tina Fitzgerald. We sent the reports to, current year, said she was okay with the plan. It was submitted to her from Meeker County. This plan apparently is shorter because the statutes are cited and linked in the plan, and appendix is removed. Action timelines and historical accomplishments are retained on record to be updated and will be shared on the county webpage. Instead, the actual annual plan is one of the items. This plan differs from the previous plan in that more specific figures on spending are reported more informally in our metric worksheets that county coordinators send to Tina for their workshop at the beginning of the following year. So that's the difference in this plan and previous plans.
We are required to have this plan to get the funding. And our funding is based on the number of parking positions we have at landings.
Really?
So, yeah, that's how they base it for every county.
And the number of landings. It's a
And the number of,
combination.
yeah,
Landings and
yes.
parking spots.
Yep.
Because the idea there is that if you have more parking spots, you have more boats going into the lake.
Okay.
And we do very well in relation to many of the other counties. I believe, of course, McLeod County doesn't have very many lakes, but they get a very small amount of money compared to Meeker. Meeker does get quite a significant funding.
And that's good. We have many very active recreational lakes within Meeker County too. So a lot of traffic between them.
Madam Chair, move to approve the 2023 AIS Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Plan.
Excuse me, motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Greg.
Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Merry Christmas to you.
Do you have anything I need to sign now, so I don't have to be coming?
Yeah, you'll have to sign the CUP.
I'll try to remember to stop
Have
down.
it down on the calendar.
They usually have to track me down for 2
Any
weeks.
post-it notes?
It's your
I'll pass
last
on.
meeting, right?
That's right, my last meeting. I'm get the gavel out, it's my last chance. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Andrew Letson, County Administrator.
Madam Chair, I have two items for you under this item. Last meeting, we approved the 2023 annual budget. Included in there were a number of personnel adjustments that were made. The action that we have before you is formalizing the approval of those adjustments. All of this has been included in the 2023 budget and planned for in that. So what we have here is cost of living adjustment for non-union employees at 3%. New full-time positions, including patrol deputy, school resource deputy, corrections officer, heavy equipment operator, social services supervisor, first assistant county attorney, the last of which replaces an existing assistant county attorney position. The reclassification of two positions that weren't part of the market study but were part of our annual appeals process. It's the administrative coordinator in the sheriff's office, the administrative technician in probation. Implementation of the wage market study, which would be over 2 years. We have a resolution attached that outlines various adjustments that would be made as of January 1st of 23 and January 1st of 24, as well as stating the board's intent to move forward with the ongoing maintenance program beyond that. So we have two motions for you. One is approval of the resolution adjusting the compensation classification of certain positions, and the second is approval of the other items that are included within the budget.
Okay, don't everybody speak at once.
Isn't the first assistant county attorney a reclassification?
It's really creating a new position within our system,
Gotcha.
but it's eliminating an existing position, so it's it blurs that line between a new position
Okay.
and classification.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
Ultimately, what we're doing is we're eliminating one position and adding a position.
yeah. And then the paralegal, is this part of this or not?
Paralegal was previously approved.
Gotcha. So we don't have to approve
We don't
again.
have to take that action because you've already taken that action.
Gotcha.
We also had the nurse case manager position in public health, which you've already taken action.
Do we have ads out for a school resource deputy and a patrol? Not
Nope.
until this is approved.
Not until after this is approved. That's what you're approving today is
So we could
authorizing
still take it out
those
then.
positions. Yes, you absolutely could.
I'm kinda kidding, but not really.
They do have a number of
Goodness.
position requests in the newspaper I've been seeing. I don't know how that's going as far as their hiring. But,
We continue to face the challenges that we've been facing.
yeah.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve a resolution adjusting compensation classification of certain positions.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Discussion? All in favor?
It's a resolution.
Oh,
Resolution.
Yeah, we
resolution,
gotta
sorry.
do that.
I just can't
Commissioner
manage.
Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
Yes.
So then the second part of this is the other personnel adjustments included in the budget, including the non-union cost of living adjustment, recruitment of the new full-time positions and the position reclassifications.
So this is basically where a line item could be deleted or not approved.
Ultimately, yeah, I mean, you've already approved the budget. What you're approving now for these positions is authorizing the recruitment of those positions.
Are all of our contracts with all of our unions now?
No.
No.
Moving along, they're progressing though. Quite well.
Madam Chair, I move to approve personal adjustments included in the 2023 annual budget, including a 3% COLA for non-contract employees, recruitment of a new full-time positions, and position reclassifications.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Second by Commissioner Schmidt. Discussion? All in favor? Is this a resolution too?
This is not.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Next item we have before you is resolutions that approve the elected official salaries for county attorney, county recorder, and county sheriff for 2023. As you recall, we had a discussion regarding this item at the November 22nd work session. At that point, you appointed a committee of Commissioners Smith and Johnson to meet with each of the different elected officials and come to an agreement as far as what those salaries would be for the coming year. Each of them have agreed to move forward with the non-union cost of living adjustment, which you just approved at 3%, plus with the county attorney and the county sheriff, an additional adjustment of 2% in alignment with our compensation policy. So we have 3 resolutions before you. They're in order of attorney, recorder, and sheriff, simply because that is the alphabetical order. You can take them in any order with which you choose.
Madam Chair, I move to approve a resolution establishing salary for county attorney for 2023.
Motion by Commissioner
Madam
Schmidt,
Chair, I will second that.
second by Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor?
This is a resolution.
Resolution.
Gosh almighty.
And 2 more.
You'd think after a year you'd nail it.
Wait, you'll get your turn at this.
I don't know if I will though, technically. I think I might not.
Just looking at it, resolution, and then I'm on. All right, go
Commissioner
ahead.
Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Abstain.
Commissioner Oberg.
Yes.
So then the second would be establishing the salary for the county recorder for 2023.
Madam Chair, move to approve a resolution establishing the salary for the county recorder for 2023.
Is that a resolution? Motion for.
Second.
Second by
That
Schmidt.
resolution.
Yep.
All right. Okay, now, discussion? All in, oh.
No.
It's him, he's doing it too.
I'm trying to help.
One last chance.
I know, thank you. Keep that close at hand.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Oberg.
Yes.
Lastly, we have the resolution establishing the sheriff, or the salary for the county sheriff for 2023.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve a resolution establishing the salary for the county sheriff for 2020.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen, discussion. I'm just gonna put this out there. I noticed that if anybody is under the information, the sheriff is, right? When you do a comparison, or am I wrong about that?
Are you talking about the statewide?
On the statewide
average? Yes, the
average.
position is below average on the statewide. When we did the market study, what we found was that the bottom of the range was below 90%. The top of the range was a lot closer when we compared to the counties that we chose as our benchmarks. The statewide, of course, includes all 87 counties.
Was he, so he was okay with this? I mean,
The work study suggested all 3 positions were below.
The
I
bottom of
just,
the range.
I felt
was
like
below.
his just stood out for some reason, at the information I was looking at. But maybe I'm wrong, that's fine, if he's happy, I'm happy.
Madam Chair, just a reminder that we as a board said we want them back again next year.
So it's
We're
just for
approving a
the-
1-year adjustment for them, so we'll have another bite of the apple a year from now.
Sounds wonderful to me. Any other discussion?
And just, Andrew, on the market study,
I might be getting confused on what I was looking at.
it depends on which.
Right.
There was a document that the sheriff provided which
That's-
showed all
that's the
87
one, I'm
counties,
sure it
and
is.
it showed that the position is below the average on that.
You're talking about our market study.
And our market study, but moving forward, 2023, will Tessia, will we be doing some maintenance?
Not until 24.
Till 24, okay, I just wanted, cause we did it 2 years. All right, sounds good.
Any other discussion? If not, I will wait for the roll call.
You only had one chance.
That was it. That was it.
One out of.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Oberg.
Yes.
Actually, I was wrong, you got another.
One
I
more.
do have
For the
one more.
last resolution of the year, we have a resolution endorsing the efforts of the Community Supervision Work Group, and I'm gonna actually turn it over to Commissioner Schmidt to talk about this because he's on that work group.
All right, this is a work group that we actually have some more meetings coming yet, before we, kinda retire this. But there is a resolution in the packet that, we've been working on. This is something we want all 87 counties to, sign on to. It's been passed by several already. This work group, and when we talk about supervision or community supervision, probation, the same. The national, we are 4% below the national average when it comes to funding, community supervision or probation. That puts us dead last in the nation as a state. Yet we're among the highest, usage of the probation system in the nation. So we put a lot of emphasis on probation, which county attorney, I'm sure, could provide more insight to that, but, so we have highest usage rate, lowest funding rate. They came close to passing some legislation to add dollars to the three, work groups, the county probation, we're a DOC county here in Meeker. Then there's county probation counties and, community
Community
CCAs.
Correction. Community Correction Act.
Counties, so those three, we have three different probation models, and they all are funded a little differently, but they're all underfunded. So what we're trying to do is get uniform, wording and resolutions together to the state legislature so they can fund these, three different models, sufficiently and equitably. And this, where AMC has put together this work group to try and address and put extra emphasis, cause they had some legislation last year that came close to passing, but was then dropped, so this is kinda the next push on this and getting AMC on board. This work group, we have representation from all three of the delivery systems, the, county probation, CCA and DOC counties. So everybody's in this conversation together. We got, commissioners on there, 4 or 5 commissioners on this, as well, commissioners from each delivery system. So we're a DOC, so there's 2 from DOC, 2 from CCAs, and 2 from, CPOs, so. Anyway, this resolution is pretty simple. We're still working on exactly how that funding model is gonna come out. I did send each of you an email with the 40-minute video that, I don't know if you took time to watch it or not, or how informational it was, but I just wanted to share some of the information that was from the DOC side to kinda enlighten folks in DOC counties what this all entails, so I would, one of our challenges is to try and get all 87 counties signed on to this before the legislation, season starts, and I think they figure by February we'll have the funding mechanism figured out, which is when they plan to have this heavy discussions on this in the legislature, so but we want the resolution done if we could by the first of the year to have that in place, so support from all 87 counties to look at reviewing this system that, like I said, we're dead last in the nation, so there's nowhere to pull that up from here.
Are they contemplating moving to one system versus the 3?
That's a good question, and I think it's a unique, because you have and I don't know how to answer it well. Do you have any insight on that?
I think that Minnesota wouldn't take kindly to that because then one model would be under the arm of the state of Minnesota, and you would be taking autonomy away from counties or collective groups. So I don't think it will survive going down to one.
And it's such a different dynamic statewide. You know, I mean, from metro to rural to north to south to east to west. So I mean, I think it's whatever the counties are working with and they're comfortable with and is efficient. We've switched several years ago to DOC. And I don't know the exact reasoning, the whys or the hows of why we switched at that time, but this is trying to get, I think, put it this way, if we could go to one and that would be better, I think that would be what the resolution would be today. You know, working towards that. This is trying to get the funding for all 3, so I would ask for this board's support of this resolution.
Madam Chair, I move to approve a resolution endorsing the work of the Community Supervision Work Group and urging the legislature to pass a new funding formula and significant appropriation during the 2023 legislative session.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen, do I hear a second?
I'll second that, man.
Second by Commissioner Schmidt. Corey, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
Yes. Thank you. Administrators report.
I just have a couple of quick items for you today. First off, as a reminder, our offices are gonna be closed on December 26th and January 2nd in observance of the two upcoming holidays. This is, of course, our last board meeting of the year. As a reminder, we are not having a work session next month, so, or not next month, next week.
Next month either?
No, next
Good.
month we will be having one. And also, I sent an email last week, but please remember to complete your evaluation of me by the end of the day next Tuesday, so I can get all of that compiled and get it sent to you by Thursday. So you have that for the following week. Also, I just had some thoughts because we're coming to the end of the year, and this is an opportunity to reflect on what we've done and kind of wanted to share that with you. This last year, like we've been seeing for 3 or 4 years now, has brought several different challenges. When you look back at early 2022 at the things that we were talking about, they were kind of different from what we're doing right now, but also not. We still had a lot of focus on the ongoing COVID pandemic, including the proposed vaccination mandate for employers in early 2022. Since then, we've continued to work on the ongoing crisis of recruiting and retaining our employees in the tight labor market, and then the inflationary pressure and supply chain issues that have made it really hard for us to complete construction projects and purchase equipment within our anticipated budgets. Through all of this, our staff has faced these challenges with the utmost professionalism and sought creative solutions to ensure that the county continues to provide positive outcomes for the community. As we've brought these solutions to you, you have considered them with an open mind, always recognizing that just because we've done something one way doesn't mean that we need to continue to do it that way going forward. It's created a valuable and fruitful partnership between staff and the board, and with always the same goal in mind, providing excellent service for our community. So, since this is the time of year to reflect and share gratitude for the people in our lives and the opportunities available to us, I wanted to share my gratitude of having the opportunity to work with you and with all of our wonderful staff. And I look forward to continuing to seek excellence in 2023. That's all I have.
Thank you, Andrew.
Nice.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Took my line.
That's what I was gonna say.
Did.
I wanna get my survey back.
Yeah.
Submit that.
And as a reminder, complete your evaluation of me.
Mine
At the
is
seat of
in
excellence.
my file, I know before you.
I'll have that done right after those two.
Commissioners Committee updates. Who wants to begin?
I didn't have much, so I can jump.
Okay, Danny, go
All I
ahead.
had is negotiations, and I think we're coming along quite well, and we have one tomorrow, do we?
2 tomorrow.
Or
Yes.
one
Yes.
meeting or whatever. What time is
2
it?
separate meetings, 2 different groups, but it's all day tomorrow. Starting at, I think, 10.
Wonderful. You
10?
get $70 for that.
Oh,
All day.
Ooh.
okay.
I take that back. 11. 11 o'clock tomorrow.
I won't be there right at 11. I got emergency services board. My morning's
And-
pretty squirrely.
That was really it for a meeting. I missed the Woodlands, and we did hire a horticulture for extension. So that was, I was in the process of helping, picking out a candidate, and we have one hired. So, that's it.
This is,
Should I go?
why not?
Okay. Our last committee reports were on the 8th, and next week, now Wednesday, that next week, Paul and I had our aquatic invasive species meeting. The list of grant requests came in from the area lake associations, and there were 19, and it came to over 103,000, if I got that correct, Paul?
That's correct.
Okay. The coordinator gave her updates for the year on the inspection season. That seemed to go well. The committee members made a list of their priorities for the upcoming year, and they shared their top 5. with the AIS coordinator. And at the last meeting, I had questioned whether the AIS committee carried any actual decision-making power or if they were simply an advisory committee to the AIS coordinator. And I asked if the commissioner representatives were allowed to vote. Well, the coordinator sent all committee members a copy of the bylaws, and then at our last meeting, a subcommittee was appointed to look into these questions. So that's still in the works. This discussion will be addressed in January on their agenda. And did I leave anything out, Paul? Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope,
Okay.
because,
We're just waiting now for the January meeting. Then this Thursday now, the 22nd, we have a DNR and ditch meeting at the Highway Building at 9 o'clock. And I just have a little aside. What happens if the weather's bad? Who makes a call on that, Andrew?
It's gonna be bad, so
Yeah.
already decided that, we've established.
I'm sorry, is this a public meeting or is this a meeting between?
DNR, Tyler Service,
DNR and ditch.
and Julie and I and John. So it's kind of a small group.
I would say it would be amongst the people who are a part of that who would make the decision.
It doesn't have to be.
That was the
That's
one.
not-
I was going.
You were originally,
You guys got it. I got too much going already this week.
It's not a public meeting of the board, so there doesn't need to be formal action.
So we'll just have to see.
I would say if John is the staff person who's coordinating it, communicate with John.
I should have asked him when he was here. But- Okay, and I think that takes care of my report.
Steve, I did attempt to watch your video.
I did too.
Haven't watched it yet, I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know if I was on that. We had two of them, and I don't know if this was one that I was in or not.
Well,
I
that was
did
the
not.
one where, the one I was watching, you saw Nathan Smalls sitting on there and
Nathan was on it, but I
Yeah,
didn't
some
see
others,
Steve
but
on the one that
I did attempt. I just want you to know I didn't
Oh,
just
I
delete
I
that
just-
email.
it-
I attempted.
It didn't look very entertaining.
No comment.
No. Yeah.
Julie covered the AIS meeting very well, and really part of that AIS meeting was what y'all approved as the AIS plan today. And I had some salary meetings, and then a CPT executive meeting on Monday, exec committee meeting, and we just went over some things about the cybersecurity and costs, and then even to have the testing done by Baker Tilly to see if they can penetrate externally or internally and come up with a SOX review is still $25,000. So cybersecurity is becoming very, very expensive, but you can't be without it.
Yep.
So it's becoming bigger and bigger, and I would imagine it's gonna become bigger and bigger for our county also, as time goes on. I had a hospital meeting of which, there was a lot of discussion about, the contract nurses that we have to hire to keep our hospital moving because we don't have enough staff, and, the related costs and what these contract nurses, get to come and work for us. So it's very, very expensive. Matter of fact, I believe, they were looking at about $3 million in the budget next year to cover the costs. So we talked a lot about how could we get staff, what do we need to do to retain more staff, to try and eliminate this contract nursing because of, just surely because of its expense. So, like I said, otherwise I had other than the salary meetings, it was pretty quiet, so. And yes, I'll take the opportunity as Andrew did to wish you all a happy and safe holiday, and as long as we're still, out on YouTube, a happy and safe holiday to all the residents of Meeker County, so.
Nobody watches, Paul.
Merry
not-
Christmas.
I think you would be surprised.
I know,
Take a look at the
I know a
numbers.
few. That's what I learned.
Steve,
I've
did you have
heard
any?
from a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's union negotiation, elected official meeting elected official meeting, union negotiation, elected official meeting, so. That's pretty much, and we've covered a lot of that already. Did have a work group on this resolution, did have a meeting on that, gone through that already. So really, that is about all that I've had in the last couple weeks here, so.
Yeah, it's been quiet for
Merry
me.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yeah.
You leaned right in when you said that. I had, Woodland, which Ashley was here today, and kinda covered our budget, for next year. I also had the hospital board, and I also had board yesterday and finance last week. We talked a lot about the budget coming up, like Paul said. Recruiting doctors, within the next 5 years, we're certainly gonna be needing to do some recruiting, and the problem is everybody's recruiting, so. Looking at, had a threat by a person in the ER last week. We had some discussion about how that was handled. They're gonna be doing some training on that, although they've had training. And how we couldn't even get a local police officer to come and be in the hospital because they're so short of officers. So CentraCare has a firm they use, and they sent someone out. So they were on lockdown, and to be clear, I think they get threats. I didn't realize this till yesterday, but apparently they do get some threats, but this one seemed more real. I think they arrested the guy. I don't know what happened to him. I think Kurt called and tried to get some response and didn't get an answer on what they were worried about. If they pick somebody up and just put them in jail over the weekend, and then do they turn them loose, then what, right? And I don't know if that's what happened or not, but there was some communication issues, to say the least, so.
It's my understanding that, there was communication.
Okay, well, I'm not pinpointing anybody, I'm just saying this is gonna be something that Kurt's gonna be working on, and hopefully everybody will be working on, because it's a scary thing when you get threats like that, so.
Is this something that the city police would be in charge of?
The police-
Because of where the hospital's located, or
The
could this
police
have
were,
been a
the
sheriff?
police, and there's another question,
Yeah.
when dispatch was called, they turned it over to the Litchfield Police.
Jurisdiction would be the city of
So
Litchfield.
what's the jurisdiction for the courthouse then?
In the jail, it would be the sheriff's office. If
But
it's
the
in the
courthouse
parking
would be?
lot, it would be the city prosecution. However, I don't know if it's the sheriff's.
Because we own the hospital.
Sure.
But it's located in the city,
within
so
the city
it's
limits.
just, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, I just think that Kurt knows that we have to figure out how we're gonna handle this. If you can't find a police officer to work, you certainly aren't gonna find somebody to stand up at the hospital and then you'd have to have all the doors, so, there's just, and like I said, they do have a plan in place, but they're working on that.
Everybody goes through active shooter training,
Right.
but now we have an active threat.
Yeah.
And so you don't probably train as much for active threat as you do active shooter. So they're gonna learn from this experience, like he said, we found a lot of deficiencies and a lot of holes that we need
Right.
to plug up, so.
And I think he was interested in finding out if maybe he can get a restraining order against this person. But the other side of that is, if they come to the ER, you can't turn them away by law. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. So, we have a new CNO starting in January, so that'll be good for the nurses. January 9th, I think she's starting, so. That's all I have. I wanna thank everybody also for the hard work we've, this year, and for allowing me to chair the board. I've appreciated Danny's humor here all along.
Yeah.
It's been kind of fun.
Kudos to me, good.
We disagree, but
Appreciated or acknowledged?
acknowledge it.
Acknowledge.
That's
That would be
the better
correct
word.
terminology.
So, Merry Christmas to everyone.
thinking more like tolerate.
Tolerate.
So,
More family.
I wanna wish everyone a Merry Christmas and stay safe. It sounds like the weather's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
On that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Moved by
Second.
Schiefelbein, second by Schmidt. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Beth. This has been a pleasure. Can't believe
Two
it, a
now?
whole year.
I know.
It just seems like, gosh,
she just took over.
So who sits next to me?
We're
Next year I'll be sitting